Hi guys, today I am going to do the video that I asked you guys if you wanted on Instagram, and the majority of you said yes, so I thought I'd do it. It's a little late, but that's okay. This is going to be my first trimester update. Right now I am a little past 18 weeks. I'm actually closer to 19 weeks, which is very exciting because that means I am only 1 week away from halfway, which is crazy because I feel like it's been really slow and really fast at the same time. And you'll see why when I get into the video, but yeah, halfway, which means still have a whole nother halfway to go. The cats. Every time I try to shut the door, the cats either want to be in or out, and both, and so I can't actually shut the door. So that's going to be fun once the baby's around too, obviously. Let's get into the first trimester update. So essentially what this video is kind of sharing my symptoms, like what was going on, all that stuff during the first trimester, and kind of like my experience. Why am I doing this video? And it really doesn't matter because every single person's experience is so different, because I watched a lot of these for years. I wasn't even in a relationship when I was watching them. I find it super interesting because pregnancy is crazy. It's the most strange experience, and it's so crazy that it's so different for everyone. But like, you don't hear that much about it. Like, I feel like you hear about the nausea, the tiredness, like certain things, but you don't hear about so many of the symptoms. And there's so many symptoms, and there's so many things that are normal, and there's so many things like, I don't know if I can take this, I don't know if I can use this, and everything is essentially like, avoid it because there's not enough testing. And it's kind of crazy because we all know if men could get pregnant, there would be testing on everything, and every single one of these symptoms would have a way to remedy it if men got pregnant, and we know that. But I kind of made a list. Like, I kind of kept a, I wouldn't say diary, but like with dates and stuff of like different symptoms that happened, all that stuff through the first trimester. So essentially the first trimester is until 14 weeks. Everyone kind of refers to it differently because pregnancy is about 40 weeks, not 9 months, it's 10 months. But the first 14 weeks is the first trimester, and that's the trimester I would say so far that's the worst. And also that it's, you know, the first 4 weeks of it, essentially you don't even know you're pregnant usually. I think I found out about 3.5 weeks in, but we were trying and like very on top of it. So we're gonna jump in right from the beginning and just kind of run through, and I'll share like my emotional journey as well. First of all, I found out I was pregnant on March 17th, and that was actually, I had a negative test the day before, so I thought I would have to go through another cycle, but it was positive. And the symptoms that I had those days, like right that weekend that I found out, was sore breasts, which is very, very common in the beginning of pregnancy. That's usually like the first symptom. And then also I had a little bit of cramping, and because of both of those things, those can also be symptoms of getting your period, of course. So it's kind of right at that point, you're a little bit like, am I getting my period or am I pregnant? It's hard to know. I would say the sore breasts are significantly more sore than period soreness, if you get that. It was more of like if you rubbed against like that, it hurt. That's something I would definitely look at if you're wondering. About 2 days later, I was getting more positive tests that were darker and darker, and then I called my OB, made my first appointment at 4 weeks. Well, at 4 weeks I made the appointment, but the first appointment was for 8 weeks, and every OB is different, so I'm just gonna let you know. So I have a midwife. Some have your first appointment at 12 weeks, some at 8, some at 6. Like, it really depends. It depends if you're high risk and all these other things as well. Now, I am not high risk in the sense of health issues necessarily, but I do take multiple medications, so they did send me to a high risk doctor just to be on the safe side, because my midwife, you know, is not as well versed in these specific medications. So I did go to a high risk doctor just to kind of work through those medications with me and see if they're all like safe and everything, and good to go. So 3 days after my positive test, one symptom I noticed was a bad taste in my mouth. It was very unpleasant. It wasn't necessarily metallic, it was just not good. It was like everything tasted off. And at that same time, I noticed that my sense of smell was getting stronger. I could like smell everything. Everything was much more intense. So it's not like everything was good or bad, it was just much more intense. Like everything, I could smell everything from a distance and things like that. And then also the breast pain got worse and my breasts felt fuller. And then as I got further into that time, so this would be like 4-week time, I definitely noticed that I had that bad taste in my mouth even more so. It grew, it was more metallic at that point, and I was getting more gas and stomach acid kind of situations. obviously there's a lot of stuff going on in your body. And around 5 weeks is when things really changed for me, and it became from like being excited about like being pregnant to not feeling good at all. Like it really dropped like at the drop of a hat. It was like one day I was fine, and then by the end of the day I was miserable, and it lasted. It was really rough for me. I've talked about this in the video where I shared my pregnancy, that I do take anxiety medication, and my primary doctor was trying to lower it because she knew I was trying to get pregnant, and that just wasn't the right move. Pregnancy for me, I know a lot of people actually calm them down. For me, the hormones of pregnancy really messed up my anxiety hormones, or my anxiety, like the brain chemicals or something, and it made it worse. So the high risk doctor that I talked to about my anxiety medication said he wouldn't have recommended to do that. He would have usually has to hire people's anxiety medication when they're pregnant. So that was just like a bad choice. So I think it was a mix of the pregnancy hormones along with the emotional aspect of the pregnancy hormones and the lower anxiety dose, because at literally week 5, I was crying like at the drop of a hat. And I'm not a huge crier, like I cry at emotional things, but like I was crying, like bawling my eyes out at nothing, like just for no reason. I'd be like in the middle of work and all of a sudden just start crying, like I could not stop it, and that's not really how I am. So that was very scary. I really didn't like that. My husband didn't like that. It was hard. Nausea started hitting at that point, and I had a lot of anxiety. I had trouble sleeping. I was really hot. My chest felt really heavy. And that kind of just carried on for about 2 weeks. It was really difficult. The crying spells was probably like not the worst part, but like they would add to the anxiety and like vice versa. And I would just like cry and have anxiety and cry and have anxiety. And it was really hard. I couldn't work for about a week. I was like literally in bed. I got up to like shower. I could barely eat. I was so nauseous, which also obviously adds to it not getting enough food. It was really difficult. Those 2 weeks. Those weeks like 5 to 7 were like the absolute worst for me. Like it got to the point where I was like terrified. I was like, I can't do this for 9 months. It was really, really, really hard. And I don't want to scare anyone away from getting pregnant, but I did go up on my anxiety dose, and I think that once that kicked in, it made a huge difference. I also started taking Unisom for sleep and nausea by my doctor's recommendation, and it made a huge difference as well. Also B6, because it helps turn like your food into energy. Unisom made a huge difference. It really helped me sleep better, and I actually felt like I was doing better, so I stopped taking it. And then that one day that I didn't take it, I was super nauseous, so I continued to take it for the nausea, and it was just, I couldn't believe how much it helped. So after about 2 weeks of like upping my dose of anxiety medication as well as taking the Unisom, I was better. I wasn't good, but I was better to the point where I was working, eating not as well as I am now, but I was better. It was improving. It was still really rough though, because I would still have like emotional outbursts. I still would get like bouts of anxiety. I would be so tired, like beyond any tired you've ever felt in your whole life. Like it is absolute insanity. Like that first trimester fatigue it's like you can't move. It's like literally like there's like your whole body and your mind just can't do anything. The fact that we work through the first trimester, and usually that's me also not telling anyone. And also, if you're interested in any of this in more detail, I do have 3 blog posts about pregnancy so far. But essentially, I just think not being able to tell people, and like you might tell close people, it's always up to you, but like share it publicly is really hard, because like that's when you're feeling the worst and you just want to be like, I can't do anything. And you also don't want to share because it's like the risky time. And I just think it's just so horrible that the whole world is the way it is, honestly. But around the week 8 or 9, I felt better. Like I was functional. I was at like I'd say 75-80% of like my overall good day. So I was doing better for sure, but I definitely felt better, I think, to talk to friends and like share with my mom and like talk to people and really tell them how I was doing, because like what was happening. I was really upset not to be able to tell a lot of people in person. That was something I was really excited about. I had like all these ways planned, so that was a bit of a bummer, but it happened the way it happened, so that's something I missed out on. But it was really beneficial to not feel so like closed off and isolated. And then about, what week are we at? 7, 8, something like that. I started getting more like side effect symptoms of just like more the fatigue, nausea, and then the less nausea from the Unisom. I was having a lot of stomach issues. I do have IBS, so that definitely coincides. But I was getting just like a lot of like weird pains and tinges, and like they could have been completely unrelated to pregnancy. Pretty much the entire first trimester was pretty, I would say up until week like 9 was the worst. After week 9, I definitely improved, and then after that, I improved even more. But up until week 9, it was a lot of like the breast soreness was like insane, trouble sleeping, but also super tired. The symptom that was the most potent, I would say, other than the anxiety, was my sense of smell. It was beyond anything. It was like on another level. It was something I know some people deal with and other people's not so much, but it was really, really wild for me, and it's still kind of like that now. And then also one symptom that I just really didn't expect, like, because you expect like the fatigue and the nausea and certain things, but one symptom that I did not expect is my eyesight is not as good. Like right now I have glasses for driving, and I pretty much only wear them when I'm driving, but I've been having to wear them just like to watch TV and stuff, and it's fine. I don't need to get like a new prescription, and apparently your eyesight gets better once the baby's born, but it's crazy that like that's something, because they're like sucking everything out of you essentially. Around 8 weeks, I also couldn't eat salad. It wasn't really an aversion. It was like I was really craving salad, and every time I ate it, I'd have diarrhea. So that was something interesting. And then 8 weeks, I also had a lot of ups and downs of energy. So I would get really energetic and like want to clean something, but then I'd get so tired like immediately. So it was a lot of like peaks in energy and then dips. So that was a lot of around week 8, 9. And then around week 10, I started having cravings, which was mostly for fruit. Fruit, ice pops, cold fruit, anything like that, like something fruity was just like really what I wanted. Not sweet, but like smoothies, sorbet, like anything like that. Around week 10 again, I was able to eat meat again. So like the whole first 8 to 9 weeks, I could barely touch meat. Chicken, anything was really gross to me. I could barely cook meat. It just really, really grossed me out. And the smell of meat like really was not pleasant to me. So I was able to eat meat, but I also started getting more bloated and gassy, and my acne got really, really, really bad around week 10. I also felt like my hair was shedding. I was getting really greasy hair. And now I remember with pregnancy, whatever happens, it's not necessarily gonna stay that way. Like it changes. So like, yeah, my skin was terrible and my hair felt greasy. And I felt like my legs were growing hair faster and like all this, it was like very strange for a while. And then around week 12, my sense of smell got really out of control. It was like even stronger, and I noticed I started peeing a lot more. So it was like constantly getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. One tip is, if you're dealing with something like that, is to lean forward when you're sitting on the toilet, like lean like your body down toward your knees, and it kind of helps empty your bladder more. I did notice that around also week 12, when I was around a lot of people, I would get really like anxious afterward. Like I'd be fine while I was around the people, but then once I got home, I think it was more of like an exhausted, like just putting out too much energy or something. And it was very strange. That's kind of gone away. And then pretty much the same things was going on from week like 12 to 14. The nausea had pretty much gone away. I still kept taking the Unisom for sleep. And I noticed that when I didn't take the Unisom at night, because I was like, oh, I don't need it anymore, the nausea's gone away, I would not feel great the next day. And like it wasn't like an even nausea, it was just like an off feeling. So I was happy to keep taking the Unisom. I would notice still a lot of cramping in my stomach. That's something that I felt like I wasn't aware of what would happen either. It wasn't like period cramping, but it was more like on and off, like not that constant like oof pain. It was just like coming and going. So that was something that was really interesting. Again, week 13, I felt like the emotional things were happening again. I had anxiety pretty under control, but I did feel like super emotional a lot. I still was like having crying spells. They would pass faster, and I was able to kind of like deal with them and like let it pass more so than I had in the beginning. I noticed around week 14 that I was out of breath more. I had a harder time like being endurance, that's not the word, but like keeping my energy up. And I was starting to have intense dreams. So it got to the point where like my dreams were like super intense, very vivid, and you wake up remembering them. And then week 12, actually week 8, I forgot to say, we did hear the heartbeat for the first time, which is very exciting. Then week 12, we saw the baby. We saw the baby move and jump and kick and squirm, and it was very exciting. Also, I did share we are not finding out the gender. We would have been able to find out probably around week 12, probably like right after, because I was allowed to opt out of that blood test. It just wasn't a choice we had. We had to get it. So it's like in my phone if I wanted to know, which is crazy. People are like, you have so much willpower. It doesn't feel like that to us. We just both have no interest in knowing. We also have a feeling that's like really, really strong. So I feel like we'll be surprised if it's not what we think. I don't know, we just don't care. And I think my whole life I knew that I didn't want to know beforehand. Around 13 weeks, I felt very full really fast. Like I felt like I was growing more and my clothes stopped fitting around then a lot. And I just felt like full faster, like that my stomach had to like grow a little or make room for more food. Still weird dreams. And at that same time, I had really bad leg cramps I would notice. And it wasn't like at night, it wasn't like restless leg, it was just like the calves of my legs, the cramps were like really like a Charlie horse, just like all day. It was really, really painful, and that lasted for a few days. And then I would eat more bananas and like try to help with potassium, magnesium, go away, and it would come back. It's now been away, but very strange. And then June, the beginning of June would have been around 15 weeks. I started noticing how thirsty I was. So I'm pretty good with drinking water, but I was like insanely thirsty. Like it was getting hotter out too, but like very, very thirsty. The dreams continued. I started getting more hungry. A weird symptom was itchy nipples. My nipples got really, really itchy. So that was a fun thing that lasted a couple days. And then 16 weeks, I noticed I popped. I would wake up in the morning and still have a bump. That's one thing too I didn't write down, but that between morning and night, you're different size. So like if you look at yourself in the morning, you might not look like you popped, you might not look pregnant, and then before you go to bed, you will look pregnant. It's very crazy. It's from bloating and like the water and all that stuff. But by 16 weeks, I noticed like during the day, like as soon as waking up in the morning, like I looked significantly pregnant. And around that week as well, 16, my legs got really itchy. Like you don't even want to see them right now. There's like scratch marks and bruises to a really bad degree. Like it was keeping me up at night. The only thing that would help was like a lidocaine spray to numb my legs. Tried like every lotion on earth. I don't know, it was just really crazy. It's kind of gone away. It's still there a little bit, but not as bad as it was. I could also feel around 16, 17 weeks round ligament pain hit. So we are kind of into the second trimester, but that'll be my last thing, was round ligament pain. I started noticing around 16 weeks because the end is 14 weeks. The beginning of the second trimester so far, I've been feeling a lot better. But I would say that the round ligament pain, which is essentially like a stretching, like all your muscles are doing so much right now, where like you move in a certain direction and it's like it feels like your muscles actually stretching. Also noticed I can feel my skin stretching at my stomach, which is interesting. Lots of lotion, but that's pretty much it for the first trimester. I'm very excited about the second trimester. I really hope the weather stays in like the 80s because the heat is not my friend. I cannot like imagine being in my third trimester in the summer. I am nervous for the third trimester, but I'm liking where I'm at now. I feel good. I feel like I have energy. I can cook. I can do most of what I normally do. I have an appetite. I don't feel terrible, and I feel pretty emotionally stable. So yeah, we are, like I said, are about 19 weeks, so we will be having our 20-week anatomy scan, which I'm really excited about, next week. And then I will update you guys after the second trimester, so I'm really excited about that. But if you want more like, you know, little updates, make sure you're following me on Instagram because that is where I share all those updates. But thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave any questions below, and I'll talk to you guys soon.